Hello, everybody. My name is Zachary Hum, and today I'm going to be debating why the United States was not correct in using the bunker buster bomb to attack Iran's Fordo nuclear facility, which I have as the background for this short video. I believe this is a picture of after the bombing uh, back in late June. First of all, I want to get into the fact that this was preventative. Essentially, these strikes were done to prevent the development of a program, to prevent a future national security threat. And as a result of the nature of this action, it's actually illegal under international law, even if it could be argued that there was an imminent threat for national security interests of the US. That would still be legally questionable because preemptive strikes are reviewed on a case by case basis to determine whether they were justified or not from an international legal standpoint. Another thing is, the powers of the presidency, getting into constitutional and national law of the United States. Is the president legally allowed to engage in such unilateral action without a declaration of war from Congress? I would say no. And so, from both of those perspectives, I would argue that this was an illegal military action. And then, on top of that, we have the fact that Iran, without being nuclear capable, actually does not pose very much of a national security threat to the United States. It may pose a national security threat to Israel, however, and our strike seems to be indicative of the continued influence of the Israel lobby in United States foreign policy and national security policy. Essentially, we're acting on behalf of Israel's national security interests rather than our own. And then also, the efficacy of these strikes is ambiguous. A DIA report came out and said that we set them back only a couple of months. The current administration, said that those guys were losers and we set them back 10 years. I believe that there is politicization of intelligence around these strikes and how effective they were that is going on. And so we're violating law. We are acting on the national security interests of another state rather than our own. And we're not even entirely sure how effective these strikes were. Those are all reasons why I think that it was actually not a correct course of action for the United States to bomb these facilities, Fordo included. There was three of them, but Fordo was the major one that has been talked about a lot. And then another couple of things really quick is that fuel was actually moved from the Fordo facility prior to the attack, which ties in with, how effective, if we're willing to risk breaking international law, and if we're essentially not even going to be acting in our own national security interests, if we're not sure how effective it was, and then they're like moving fuel before the strike, that's doesn't seem to be very sound policy to me. Another thing is nuclear war is a game where nobody wins. And the reason why I say that is because if we look at this situation through the lens of offensive realism, we could see why, especially when we're accompanying that with an intersubjective understanding of national security. From an Iranian national security standpoint, they may want nuclear capability, not so much to use it to strike another nation, but more so as a deterrent for invasion. And if we're looking at it through that lens, nuclear proliferation is actually a good thing because when states are both nuclear capable, nuclear war is a game where nobody wins. That means they're more incentivized to come to diplomatic resolutions to their conflicts, minimizing the severity and cost of conflicts, which is better for national security. And then another thing is, by engaging in such aggressive action, we are creating instability and cycles of retaliation, which is going to be worse for long-term national security interests, even if it could be argued that this is a short-term victory. Also, the only freeze of this weapons program was under the Obama era deal with Iran, which was achieved diplomatically to further my point here, to stress why that should be the policy approach rather than aggressive military action. And then I have a quote that I really want to end off on, which is essentially, Beijing, China, not to say that they're perfect or that I agree with them on everything, but after this, they This was their foreign ministry, and they quote, U.S. actions, quote, seriously violate the purposes and principles of the UN Charter and international law and exacerbate tensions in the Middle East, end quote. And so that's kind of like my takeaway from this as well. You have the legal issues, you have the issues of efficacy, you have the issues of us acting on the behalf of national security interests that aren't our own. And then you have, this idea that we're actually pushing them further to want nuclear weapons even more, and we're radicalizing them rather than resolving the situation, and that this is actually going to be worse in the long term for our national security interests, and that a diplomatic solution, like one that was found under the Obama administration, would be a better course of action. Okay, I know that I am at double time, so I am going to end it there, but thank you for listening to me very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, night, morning, etc.